Welcome home. We are WNST. Towson, Baltimore. Baltimore Positive. We are positively at State Fair. We are in the heart of Catonsville, the Ville. A little bit of a gloomy, stormy day here. We've had all sorts of storm damages here. I put this thing together, the Maryland Crab Cake Tour, before Orioles games. We're going to be at Costas 2 weeks from now when the Orioles are playing the Yankees. We're here, courtesy of our friends at the Maryland Lottery. I have Pac-Man scratch-offs to give away. We had a lucky $20 winner over at Cooper's North the other day. We're going to be at Cooper's South in Fells Point next Friday. We're going to be at Coco's next Wednesday. Cooper's in Fells Point on Friday for Fleet Week. We're going to be at Costas on the 20th before the Yankees-Orioles game. And then the 25th, we're going to be at Pappas in Parkville. Today we're at State Fair. This is Howard Scher. He's a lifer buddy of mine. I met Howard in section, it was then middle concourse section. It was middle 12 at the time. It wasn't even twos yet. What did they call it?
I don't know. You could be right.
I think they were just called middle concourses. So Howard, the last time he came on down at Fadley's, gave me the Duck Doctors. I just wanted you to know that I drank coffee out of this today. I've drank so much of it that I've actually busted the tab on it. So I need a new top on this.
I could work all that.
But you can call Howard if you need your duck sucked. But Howard's been in a lot. He sold pet food for a long time. He had a bar down in Canton. But Howard has been one of my oldest friends, and we were partners in a Critics' Choice DJ business back in the 1990s. We DJ'd a lot of weddings, never a divorce, right? Few bar mitzvahs, bat mitzvahs, few special bull roasts that we're not going to talk about here today.
Bars, restaurants.
It's been 30 years. We can't go to jail for that.
No, we cannot.
Howard's here. We're at State Fair. And I invited Howard over, and this is a testament to all who whistle about my love of Oriole baseball. And today I literally invited you over as a friend to watch the Oriole game. And I thought this would be like a great experience to come to State Fair, do the show 10 to 1, have the great Thomas Dolby come by to promote his Totally Tubular tour and his new hair and Prevailing Wind and all the good stuff we did. And I thought, I'm going to get Howie over, because I invite you out all the time whenever I lose a guest. But, like, this duck business is killing you. This is, like, a real thing. You're sucking a lot of ducks right now. Huh?
We are sucking a lot of ducks. We run on any given day around 8 trucks a day in the Mid-Atlantic pretty much. And we're doing anything from a residential home to a government building to an apartment community, doing air duct cleaning and dryer vent cleaning.
Radio stations in Towson.
What
did you find in my ducks? You never told. You were supposed to, like, you were going to show me. You know what I mean? Like, when you get there in the morning and you're like, how are you going to be here all day? I'm like, okay, dude, do whatever you need to do. We got a lot of ducks here. They haven't been sucked in 25 years. Let's do it. And by the way, we escorted a snake out of the radio. It's a long story.
I think I read
it happens. It happens. So what did you find in there? And, like, you told me mine were particularly, like, dirty, weren't they? They were kind of nasty.
I mean, I'd have to go back and look exactly to see what we found, but we do send before and after pictures to every customer at the end of the
I thought the snake
service.
was going to go into the duck.
No, it could have. We have not removed the snake yet. We've removed lots of dead animals, but not a snake. Okay.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, we found everything. We found pieces of bread that have not decayed, that have been sitting in people's ducks for years. We found feces in ducks. I mean, all sorts of food, toys. You know, kids will lift up the vent on the ground and just dump a toy in there and all sorts of stuff. We found a house. We went to it and worked on a house that was built in the 50s, and the ductwork was stuffed with 2x4 pieces, 2x4s, plaster from the walls or drywall, whatever they used back then. I think the builders, the guys were lazy, and they put it into the ductwork. So these people had been paying for their air to be interrupted for years, paying BGD.
Okay, so let's get to the start of this. Howard and I met at a hockey game. We were Skipjacks fans back in the 80s.
Yes.
Talked to Gene Ubriaco a couple weeks ago. He sends his love. And, you know, Trotzy and I, early in the year, we were up, and we were going to get together in Philly, and we didn't. I had Eddie Frankovic on a couple weeks ago. Where are you with hockey? I mean, you're like, you were the coach at Towson or UMBC? What were you? UMBC, okay. So hockey was, like, always a huge part of your life, and as you know, when I walked out of Vegas that night, and I was spoken to like trash by Zach Leonsis, Ted Leonsis' son, you know, after running buses down there for a decade,
right.
After being told that Baltimore was an important part of the Capitals' footprint.
Right.
And the megapolis we have from Richmond to Boston, and we're gonna have and Baltimore is a television market, and we're gonna play Wizards games there, and we're gonna. Ted's a liar. Ask Virginia. Ask whatever. That was the first nipple I got off of, from sports, to say, like, we're never getting a team in this city again. There's never going to be a Baltimore Skipjacks or Clippers. And by the way, dude, I go to the Clippers ad on eBay when I buy my old belt buckle stuff. I'm looking for like a Clippers banner that's not $150. I get a bobblehead for $200 with the old Clipper guy. I love all of that nostalgia, but like the notion that we don't have an arena for a hockey team now, right? So that's over. They're all there's ever going to be, either them or Hershey, which congratulations to the Bears, or the Flyers. I just have decided, like, I got enough with baseball and football and dealing with what I deal with them that I'm not going to be spoken to like garbage and be lied to for a decade on the radio by the owner of the team that I'm promoting his team under the guise that Baltimore's in there. Then they win the Stanley Cup, and they haven't showed up in Baltimore since they won. They haven't done anything. They haven't spent 10 seconds in Baltimore since they won the Cup. If I ran into Ted Leonsis here today, he would not want to hear from me.
Fair enough.
He just wouldn't. And so, like, and I love hockey, but I don't want to say I'm on hiatus. Maybe one day I'll move to Salt Lake City and fall in love with the Coyotes or, whatever. And I didn't watch 1 minute of the Predators this year, although I want them to win.
Right.
I've been watching. I've been going to concerts. I've been building the company. I did a documentary. I'm out eating food, looking at birds out my window, loving up my cat. You know what I mean? Missing my mother. I'm doing important things.
Right.
Hockey has. I mean, am I missing anything? Missing an Edmonton, Florida Panthers? I don't know.
I'll tell you, I've watched more of the Stanley Cup playoffs this year than I have in years.
You're a McDavid guy?
I'm a McDavid guy. I love McDavid. I'd like to see, for my old buddy Joe, Edmonton to win another cup. But I think Florida is probably who I'm leaning towards winning the cup this year. They're just a very well-rounded team. But I'm still into hockey. I went to 0 Caps games this year, though. I'll qualify with that. I didn't go to a Hershey game. So they're not getting my money, and that doesn't mean anything. I would have if time would have permitted and things like that. But it's not the most convenient.
But you haven't given the National Hockey League, you've given them your attention.
Right.
Do you buy a package or no? None of that? No. So how do you experience your hockey? I mean, dude, you're a friggin' lifer. You're a hockey guy.
Right.
We met at a hockey game 40 years ago.
Just watch it on my TV.
The amazing part of me at this point, and you've known me forever, long before I had the radio station. We'll talk about the documentary and Duck Doctors and all that stuff, but the amazing part is, did you ever know anybody who loves sports more than me?
I mean, probably not. I mean, comparable people, but yes. Yes. But you knew more about other teams and people with other teams than most of my friends did. Most of my friends were just big sports fans. They might have kept up. Back in the day, it was called rotisserie baseball, so they knew everybody in baseball. And then, fantasy football came around and they knew rosters.
I did the scoreboard page for the paper for 8 years. So every single night I saw every stat, and I cared about it. I just didn't put it together.
Yes.
I said, Alomar got 3 hits tonight, or whatever, right? Back in the day.
Yeah.
I loved sports. It consumed my life, but I loved concerts too, and music, and girls, and traveling. I mean, food, drinking. I did it all. But the sports thing for me, as I've gotten older, to be treated like trash by these people I worshipped.
Right.
That, I spent all my money, all my time, built a life, a business around it. I'm just sick of it at 55.
I get it.
This new Oriole group, I've already been treated like trash by Rubenstein's people. I mean, like, Rubenstein's people have treated me worse than Angelos's people did. Like, just to a degree of respect, how you talk to somebody, how you meet somebody new, how you offer somebody coffee. That's the baseball side. Then there's Chad Steele and 30 years of football. But the hockey thing for me, hockey was probably my first love, right? Because my dad didn't like hockey. And my dad took me to a Clippers game in 73.
Okay.
And I went down there and I saw the ice.
Yeah.
And it was so different, and it was easier to understand because the puck went in the back of the net.
Right.
It was just quick. You didn't have to understand balls and strikes, and you didn't have to understand football. Right. My God, downs. It was, when you're 5 trying to understand
football was impossible to understand.
Hockey was easy.
Right.
It was at the arena. I liked the arena. It was sexy when I'm 5 years old there. It had some shine to it to me. And it was so fast, and my dad never liked it. It was minor league, and it was in the city after the riots in the 70s, you know. I later learned my dad had been attacked at one point and had some problems with being alone, and, you know, he had been vulnerable at various points in his life. So he didn't really like going down there, but he took me because he loved me.
Right.
So I always went to hockey games, and I'm talking like mid-'70s after the Blades, when the ECHL Clippers were playing green and gold with Warren Young.
Yes.
Before I knew you.
Yeah.
So I loved hockey so much, and it was when I was at the paper, the reason I met you, nobody wanted to cover the Skipjacks.
Right.
They were a joke at the News American amongst the reporters. Well, we'll give the 16-year-old kid, we'll let him go cover hockey.
Right.
Me and Tom Robinson, somebody last week asked me if I knew George Taylor. I'm like, he was George's nephew. I'm
Wow.
like, I loved your
That's
uncle.
a name from the past.
I loved
Right.
George, you know. Saw him in Vegas 2 weeks ago. So, like, hockey for me was, we wanted to play it in the alley on roller skates. I never ice skated. I ice skated when I was I was a 21-year-old when I learned how to ice skate. I was a grown-up when I learned,
right.
and I'm not a great ice skater. I'm a very good roller skater. But we played roller hockey in East Baltimore and the Baltimore Stars and that background. But hockey for me was my first thing that nobody else liked hockey but me
Right.
until I met you and Joe DeFonso.
Right.
I mean, nobody here liked hockey.
It was the same way for me growing up in Randallstown. Like, nobody was a hockey fan. And it's funny, all these years later, like, I meet people and they say, oh, yeah, I used to watch hockey all the time, or I used to go to all the Skipjack games. But I guess, you know, when you're 12, 13, 14, 15 years old, you know, your world's only so big, so you don't know all these
But home team
people
sports
eventually.
did bring it to you,
Yes,
right? You
it
know what I
did.
mean?
It did.
Like, the Capitals were a very relevant thing in the late 80s when the Orioles were teetering. When Phil Jackman and I were going down there, Brian Propp, Tim Kerr, when
Right.
you and I knew each other,
Yeah.
when I was covering the Capitals in the late 80s, Scott Stevens, you know,
Right.
Mike Gartner, those teams, they were relevant enough in my friendship circle that some of my friends liked hockey.
Yes.
By then.
Right. Because we were older. You were almost 20 years old at that
But
point.
I have
or 20
six
years
friends in my life. I can, you know, Brandon, you, Kenny Albert. I met my wife at a hockey game. I should say that as well. I met my
Right.
wife at a hockey game. She was a season ticket holder for hockey. So I love hockey, but I guess my point with you is our whole relationship began as hockey, and it became girls, beer, music, DJ, friendship, travel. You and I have been around the world together, like all of that. But hockey comes back to me through friendships, through Barry
Yes.
Trotz or through you. I was in New York last weekend before my wife broke her ankle. And we were seeing the Stones. Something I'd never done. I'd never taken public transportation to MetLife Stadium from Manhattan.
I did it for the Ravens game.
It was the easiest
2
thing in the
years
world. It was $8 at Port Authority. We walked on. We were there in 12 minutes. They gave us our own tunnel. Like, we had our own Lincoln Tunnel to get. It was insane.
Getting out's not as easy.
Satisfaction. I can't get on the bus. We were on the
Right.
first bus out. I was walking. I had Joe's Pizza in my hand at 11:30 over in 42nd
that's
Street.
pretty good, right.
Yeah, so, like, I had a great experience. But before we went over, my wife wanted to take a nap. So she went back to the hotel on 28th Street, took a nap. And I went to a hockey bar called Stout,
Okay.
block from the Garden.
Okay.
And I walked in there at 5 o'clock on Sunday afternoon when the Stones were playing. And I walked in the third period of a 4-3 game. It was game 6. It was a 3-2, 2-1, 2-2, whatever it was. No, 2-2. Either way, Rangers fans everywhere.
Yeah.
So I walked in to Eastern Conference Finals.
At a Rangers
road
bar.
game. It was a road game. It was in
Yeah.
Florida. But I went into a Rangers bar, and I watched the Rangers give up the tying goal. And I think
Yeah.
they won in overtime. They did win. I believe they won that game in overtime.
Okay.
But I walked in there, and the hockey thing, it's just like the hair
I
stood
know.
up again.
I think I've been in that bar before.
It was
There
like I
a
was
bar.
in the Garden.
Right.
And I just stumbled in off the – I knew earlier in the day, I'm like, the Rangers are playing, and I thought there'd be some people there. I walked into the Garden like a week and a half ago.
Yeah.
So I did get – it was the only hockey I've watched all year.
That's funny.
It's literally
Yeah, right.
the only 18 minutes of hockey that I've sat and watched the puck and was with fans.
Right.
And I love hockey. I'm
Yeah.
not here to dog hockey. I'm here to say I'm not giving the Washington Capitals anything ever again because they screwed me, my fan base, my city. They lied to me. So I'm just done with liars, whether their names are Angelos or Rubenstein, whether it's Bisciotti or Modell or Irsay or Ebright, who never lied. I mean, like, I'm 55. I'm just done with shenanigans and charlatans. That's all. That's
right.
all.
I understand.
At any cost,
Yeah, I get it. I mean, listen, I watch as a fan. My affiliation to the Caps is just as a fan. And, I would go to a Hershey Bears game if they were a Caps affiliate or not. You know what I mean? Like, I enjoy hockey. But I
was
not
in
go to
Hershey
a game.
Wednesday seeing Joe Jackson at the Hershey Theater.
Okay.
Every sign in downtown, right next to the chocolate drops,
Yeah.
is win it again or whatever it was. Because I said to my wife, I said, I think they won the Calder Cup. I was pretty sure they did. And then it said repeat. It was a repeat or do it again or whatever the wording was. And I'm like, see, I told you they won.
Yeah,
and we're
it's
walking
funny.
through the streets.
Yeah.
And then I saw that they're like kicking ass again, right? Like they're
So
really
they're
good.
up 3-0 in the Eastern Conference Finals in Cleveland. So they're playing actually at the arena where the Cavs play.
And they're going to play some team from like California, right? That's waiting on them,
Probably.
right?
I don't know. I don't even know who won the Western
Well,
Conference.
I took a picture in the bar that I was in. There's me sitting in the middle of Stout. Nothing but Rangers fans all around me. I
that's
sent that
pretty
over
wild.
to Jen.
Yeah.
I'm like, I feel like I walked right into like a hockey game.
Right.
I had 2
Yeah.
beers in one period. That's how
Yeah,
much fun. I was
yeah.
like, Rangers, let's
Can't
go.
not, right.
Well, I was rooting for Kenny.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And Kenny was supposed to come on when the documentary came out, background draft day. But the documentary came out late April, and I reached to Kenny because he was in it. Everybody was in it. I threw him a link and said, hey, dude, I don't want you hearing on the street. You're in it. You're in it. And he got back to me, and I always hear it in his voice,
Yeah.
So he said, next week. And I haven't heard from him, and he's been running around with the Rangers. It's time to get him on now. I'll grab him next week.
And he's
But
doing book promotions because he had a book that came out.
that I'm in. That he
Right.
I'm in his book.
Yes.
It was the first thing he pointed at. You're Nestor, you made my book. I'm like, oh, that's so
And you
nice.
made my documentary.
You made my documentary,
Right.
Kenny. But he didn't get a ring this year, so I wanted him to. I wanted him to call one.
Of course. I don't know. For some reason, I definitely watch more of the Stanley Cup playoffs
I don't
this
hate
year.
the Rangers. Do you?
I do not hate the Rangers.
I hate the Flyers, I guess.
Yeah.
Penguins.
I just thought the Rangers weren't quite to the level of the Panthers.
That showed up.
And that showed up. And Edmonton is a great offensive team. Their defense is not so good. So
They're in the Stanley Cup Finals. They've done something right.
They are doing something right. And they play defense well enough, but they can score a lot of goals. And they've gotten some good goaltending when they've needed it. So
Grand Fuhrer.
Yeah, Grand Fuhrer, right.
Just checking.
Yes. Jeff Skinner. So I could foresee a series going 5 or 6, but I think Florida prevails.
I got a hockey story for you that I told the other day. I don't think I told it on the air. Sometimes I get confused. No, I did tell it off the air. I told it because I was in Las Vegas last week. I was with Joe Enoch. He doesn't remember it because it was late at night, but I told him my hockey story. So I was with your friend and my mutual friend, your classmate, my ex-girlfriend, Robin, writer, Stepner then. Robin and I dated for years, so shout out to Robin and her family and her kids and her sister. Robin and I were dating and traveling the world whenever the Stars played the Sabres. Is that 99 or is that 2000? Whatever year that was. It was turn of the century, okay? So Robin and I were on a bender, traveling, having fun, doing what young people did 25 years ago when they were single and engaged to be engaged. So we were in Vegas, and it was Game 6 of the Stanley Cup Finals, and we were in New York, New York. So if you're familiar with where New York is, it's literally adjacent to the arena that's now there. But this is 1999, 2000. I want to look up what year that was. Dominic Hasek, it was the year Madonna. It was the year that the puck went in behind it, but it wasn't really a goal. It was that game.
Right.
It was
I
a
remember.
triple overtime, crazy game that night, okay? Right. The cup got raised. Buffalo's still trying to win anything at this point, 25 years later, right? So that night, Robin and I were at a restaurant in the New York, watching we watched all 6 periods. We sat in this casino for 5.5 hours. You couldn't leave.
Yeah.
It was just, like you could raise the cup.
Right.
So we sat there, watched the whole thing, and I remember it. In between periods, I was betting, I was playing craps between periods and stuff like that. And that moment happens. The puck goes in. It's this illicit championship. The puck was over the line. It was a bad goal. It was a foot in the crease, I think, right? Was it?
Yeah,
his foot was in the crease. Yeah. There was something hokey about it, that it should not have been a goal, but it decided the cup.
It was pre-replay.
Right. So I leave that alone. I think nothing of it. And 20 years later, We're in the middle of a podcast, sweetheart. Sorry. Yeah. 20 years later, I'm out in Vegas with my wife on the ice with Tony Robbins and Ovechkin, holding the Stanley Cup, lifting the Stanley Cup, doing all those things on the ice there that night. We walked out upstairs, and Trotz says, meet us at the Mandarin Orient. We had to go and get changed. We were going to meet them at the party where we ate dinner with the cup, and Ovechkin took the sandals over to Tiesto. And Ovechkin grabbed the cup from me. The cup was sitting where you are in the chair.
Funny. Yeah.
Ovechkin took it and walked out the door, and he was on my Twitter 8 minutes later across the street at the MGM, right? So this all happened that night, but my wife and I walked out of the arena, and we walked right by the side door. That was the door that I stood at with Robin 20 years later watching the Stanley Cup, and we had just won the Stanley Cup.
Right, that's pretty.
In Las Vegas,
right,
where there was no team, no thought that there would ever be a team, and I thought, if there's a theology of a space
right
where I watched the Stanley Cup get raised on this television at Il Forneo in New York, I said to her, we got to go in here. She's like, why? I'm like, well, because we were like riding high. We just won the cup. We're going to the party. I'm like, I just want to pay respect to a place. I walked in. I said, you see that seat? Robin and I sat over there and watched the Stanley Cup and watched it get raised. The game was in Dallas or Buffalo. I don't remember where it was. And I thought, the odds of us lifting the Stanley Cup here once in my life. So once that happened, we went to the party that night. I sat at Trotz's table for 4 hours. No one spoke to him.
Really? Not even the players?
The players, but it was frozen. What was going on in that room at that celebration? It was weird.
Interesting. Because they knew they were going to part ways at that point, you think?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mitch Korn and his daughter, Trotz and his family, and me, and everybody else.
Wow. Okay.
When we left that night, I got in the elevator with McClellan and Trotz. Trotz said to me, I'm going gambling at Bellagio. You coming with me? And my wife looked at me. She's like, you should go. And I'm like, I got nothing, man. It was like 5 in the morning.
Right.
Here. It was 3 in the morning there.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I got nothing. And when I left, the elevator closed. Trotz was standing here. McClellan was standing here in the same elevator, and they went down, and that was the end. I was at the parade 3 days later. Trotz told me at the parade, he's like, it was over. And I said, you know what? I think I'm over with the Washington Capitals. And then they didn't bring the cup to town. I got sassed by the kid, Zach Leonsis.
Yeah.
Spoke to me like I was just lucky to have experienced a Stanley Cup championship.
Oh.
I was just lucky.
He's actually the lucky one.
After being a fan for 35 years, driving down there with Phil Jackman in the snow in the 80s. I was just lucky to be along for the ride. I should feel grateful to be there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I think the shoe belongs on the other foot.
So at this point in time, I'm just good with not watching hockey anymore. But I love you, and I love hockey. And at some point, maybe – I would go to a Predators. I mean, if I'm down in Nashville, I will put my Predators jersey on, support them. I'm just not going to watch 140 nights of hockey in the winter any more than like what the Orioles are doing right now. Like, I watch the Orioles, but I don't sit up all night watching the Cubs.
Correct.
Because I just don't.
Right.
Because
no,
it doesn't
I hear
compel
you.
me
Same
anymore.
thing. Right.
Nobody's watching Maryland.
Right.
Like, college sports is just – so we're at a real crossroads where 50-something-year-old people like you and me, you're not giving the Capitals money, and you're as big a hockey fan as I know.
Correct. I mean, that's true.
That's weird.
It is.
Do you give the Ravens money?
I do.
How often do you go?
I pretty much go to every game.
Okay. Orioles, you give them money?
Yes.
I think this is where I'm going to start focusing my attention in regard to where you give your money, because they need your money.
Right.
I mean, if the Orioles are going to give Adley Rutschman what you want them to give him, and if they're going to sign Gunnar Henderson, the price of beer, tickets, your app, all of that is going to have to go up in Baltimore.
Without a doubt.
Or Mr. Rubenstein's going to have to be very altruistic, which is also another method. Another method is he's 74 years old. What's throwing in $50 million a year into payroll the next 6 years for him when the thing's going to be worth $4 billion when he sells it anyway?
Correct.
Nothing. So if he sees it that way, the way the Padres guy did, but if he's trying to run it bone on bone, and they need to generate the kind of revenue to have a $165 million a year payroll, there better be a whole lot more Howards.
For sure. I mean, without a doubt. But the attendance is up because they're winning. But I found it interesting last week that I read, the NBA is on the verge of signing a new media deal. and I'm not a big NBA guy, but they're going to double their media revenue. And they said that that's going to create the first $100 million a year players in professional sports.
Well, of course, yeah.
Because so much money is coming from TV, radio, podcasts.
The kid that's really going to get rich off the NBA isn't Michael Jordan. It's whoever's 9 years old.
Yes.
Who's the next
Right.
Michael Jordan.
Correct.
Because there's going to be so much money. In the same way Lamar has already doubled what Joe Flacco was getting. It's been 10 years.
Right.
So in 10 years, the bar goes from $20 million to $50 million
Yes.
right away. By the time Lamar ages out, it'll be $85 million a year, right?
Right. So it's just.
But where's that coming from? Your beer has gone from $6 to $8 to $12 to $15. I don't know where that ends. I'm getting sticker shock by beer prices at concerts. I mean, I go to concerts now and I look and say, I was at Joe Jackson in Hershey. A beer was $14 at a theater.
Wild.
And I looked at it and thought, where else in the world would I pay $14? And am I that thirsty? I'll take the water for $3.50.
Right.
And I'm not cheap, broke, poor, Dundalk, whatever. I'm just sort of like, there's got to be a limit, right? I mean, State Fair couldn't get away with that. Nobody can get away
No,
with
of course
that.
not.
But
they
what are we
can.
willing to accept? That's. I think they think the sky's the limit, right? I mean, that's the general sense, especially from the NFL. The NFL feels like that this is an unburstable bubble.
I think that leads you down the path of like the media deals because goes back to those because I think you end up in a situation where, the Orioles and we all know your opinion on that club.
No, that has nothing to do with it.
Their whole deal with like FUBU and that's what it's called, right?
FUBU, yeah.
Yeah. The
FUBO.
With the streaming rights. You know what I mean?
How do you get your games?
I have DirecTV, so I get them all on DirecTV.
Okay.
But
you're paying $1,800 a year for your cable.
A little less, but yes, close. Yes.
All right, and the Orioles are bundled into that. So when you're not bundled anymore, are the Orioles a $300 a year summer thing for you, $600 a year? Are they $1,200 a year because you're getting 4 tickets to the Yankees game and a Machado jersey or whatever? Like the new bundling of what they're doing is this club and this come to the ballpark anytime you want.
Right.
Because we want you to buy $15 beers, and we want you in here, and we need studio audience.
Correct.
They need to get people
Right.
there.
So I'll tell you, like, I have a season ticket plan with the Orioles.
Okay.
And it's not a full season ticket plan. A lot of people have never even heard of it, and they weren't the ones to invent it, but it's called a Birdland membership, and you hear about them when they advertise. And basically,
Tell me about it, because I don't know about it.
You put money into a debit account is how I would explain it. So I gave them $1,200 last year. This year I've only given them $600, and you get a discount on tickets. I could go onto my Birdland membership app. I can buy tickets at a discount. Any game I want, anywhere in the stadium, I get discounted concessions and everything else. So if you're going to spend $600 a year,
and you're
going
to
spend it, then you're better off buying this because you get discounted tickets and you get.
That is the incentive of if you're only going to come to 6 games a year, you're going to spend $600. Just hand us the $600 at Christmas,
right.
And we'll put you in a club, and now you get. You come when you want. It's different than the old days.
Correct. And, they still have their...
It'd be nice if they had one of their representatives sit down. Mr. Rubenstein sat here, Greg Bader sat here and answered I'd love to know this stuff because I only know what Jeff Arnold's willing to tell me in the broadcast last night, and I know from having hired broadcasters, they read what's in front of them, but there's no longer form understanding, and they don't speak to me, so I don't really know.
They probably don't even know about this because it doesn't probably affect their daily lives. But, I mean, they still have the 13, 29, and full season plan. But
I'm wondering what happens when I dump my cable and I want games, and they're going to sell it directly to me. And, Luke talks about being in southern Pennsylvania, not being able to stream games, not games out of market, all of that. Gets Phillies games instead. The fact that if you want their game on Friday night, they put this Apple thing up that, basically says to me, I ain't watching them on Friday.
Right. Friday nights I give up when they're on
You
Apple.
gave up.
I pretty much gave up.
I gave up, too. So
because,
how can that possibly be in their best interest?
So I paid
that
for Apple
I gave up on them?
Right. I paid for Apple TV, not Apple TV Plus, which you need. So, I just don't see the Friday night games.
Yeah, I like, for the life of me, one of their pencil necks needs to sit in a meeting with me and explain to me how restricting your product, grossly restricting your product, or frustrating or pissing people off, You know, you get pissed off at State Fair because there's a line out the door sometimes, and you have to wait for a table. You don't mind that. You come in, you get food. But in regard to your sports, this isn't waiting in line. This is making you go across the street, learn a new system, whip your credit card out for Apple.
Right.
Give them carte blanche to run your credit card. I don't know, dude. That's not a good model. You know why it's not a good model? 2 baseball fans don't want to buy it, and I hear about it all day long.
Right.
From
Well,
people.
listen, they don't care what we think, because if it's not Apple paying that money, Amazon's going to pay that money, or Netflix is going to pay that money.
They don't care about the customer. That's probably
right. That's what it comes down to.
Duct doctors can't do that.
Correct. No, that's why
Balmer Positive can't do that.
I'm stressed beyond belief every day. But I will say this: I think that one of the biggest issues facing cord cutting as a sports fan is that I can't get the Orioles, I can't get the Ravens, and I can't get the Caps or the NHL on.
So by keeping that $1,500 a year, whatever you pay, $1,000,
I get to see all my games.
You get everything you want. And, okay, so that's the bundle. Kids aren't doing that.
Correct.
22. So how are they getting a game? How are you introducing your daughter, your stepdaughters, any of these people to it when it's not theirs? And in order to be theirs, they're going to have to buy it the way you have to buy a Taylor Swift ticket. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
And that's not good for them.
But
they need to introduce themselves to more people.
But if you start to think about it, it's
you know where the games also are on Fridays in bars.
Right.
You're at Friday night.
The bars aren't paying for that.
You can't. The game's not even available ambiently.
Unless they illegally stream it.
Got it. Okay, but your kids, how do?
Pretty much from getting a game day experience. And listen, that's why you're seeing like the Ravens are redoing, they're making all these changes to the stadium that it's going to make it a more fan-friendly experience. The Orioles, they just sent out a survey recently with ideas.
I got that survey. Did you take it?
I did not.
Bill Cole and I from Cole Roofing, we were going to do it yesterday. He couldn't do the show yesterday, so we punted on it. But it's going to be a McStickneck out of it next week. I'm going to do a radio segment.
Yeah.
I was going to get Rosenfeld to do this too, my chief digital officer. I haven't filled it out. I went 2 questions in. Like I hit the first one just to get into the survey, and I saw where the survey's coming from. And then I'm like, no. I'm going to do this on the radio. I don't.
Yeah,
so
that's
I
a great
stopped
idea.
it.
Right.
So I don't. Did you take it?
I did not.
Oh,
no,
you did
I
not.
said
Okay.
delete. I mean, because I'm of the school of thought that they would look at my answers and just be like, whatever. I don't think
they
my
don't
answers
listen
count.
to this show.
Right, but you know what I mean.
Except when they hear every word I say.
I think unless they saw like compelling numbers voting for certain things, they're going to ignore most of the topics.
So
now,
your whole premise is they've sent out a survey that they're not going to listen to. That's your confidence level in them. That's terrible. I mean, that's true, but that's the way you feel about it.
And I'm not picking on them. I'm picking on corporations in general. I mean, the Ravens just are in the process of doing focus groups. Yeah. And they're inviting season ticket holders to do focus groups at the Castle.
I used to be a season ticket holder until their vice president threw me out of my tickets.
Right,
like literally. So there's my answer.
So they're taking people out to the Castle, and they're putting them in a room, and basically they have closed circuit TVs, and they have supposedly the brass watching from a room with the questions they ask the people. So they sit them around a conference table and they fire out questions.
Where'd you learn this? Sashi Brown had me banned from an event last week that I couldn't ask questions.
I know somebody that attended one of them.
Okay.
And he said they were very interested in the answers, so it seemed. They treated everybody they brought very well. But, until we see what happens, I mean, it could
just be... The Ravens are an interesting marketing play for me because last week I was watching the Oriole game. And they've produced a new commercial. Have you seen it? The Ravens buy season tickets?
Yes, I did see that.
We have the #1 fan experience. We have the most exciting. We've won. Well, then why are your tickets available?
Right.
That should be the question for Sashi Brown and for Chad Steele. The team can't be any better than they are. The Ravens.
Correct.
They could not be any better or perceived as being any better. They could not have any more longevity. The coach, the general manager, they got all that going for them. Why are their tickets $12 on StubHub the day of the game? Why is that? Why could I not give tickets away for years after the knee, and then they took my tickets away? If it's that great, why are single game tickets still available? Well, you're doing something wrong. You are. And this $600 million that we've given Bisciotti to build the stadium out, did you see the video for that? It's a 2.5-minute video.
Yes.
It's all about an area that $400,000 skyboxes. They're cleaning out the press box. It's one of the reasons they got rid of me, because they didn't have room, right, Chad? So they got rid of the press box now. Like in Washington, the press box gonna be in the corner. They have $400,000. Well, what does that mean to anybody? Like when they had the press conference about all the stuff they were doing 8 months ago, they talked about the hot dogs tasting better and the cold beer being colder inside the perimeter. I mean, that's the way they speak of their fan base.
Right.
And then I see this video that's all about gold-plated, the Claw Club, the Gold Club. Like, who's going there? It's not these people coming in on the focus groups that are paying $80 to sit in Section 523, row 31.
No, correct. Right.
Like, they're just trying to get rich people to give them more money. They're not really widening the scope of the brand.
Of course. I mean, it's the same thing the Orioles are going to do with Camden Yards. I mean,
Really?
the press box is going to go. They're going to put a restaurant or more suites there.
Who are these people that are spending $150 to go to a baseball game? Who are they? I don't know them.
I don't know.
None of the people I know, they're all looking for the deal after Mountcastle gets 7 RBIs and tickets are $7 for an hour.
Right.
They're all looking for – and these flash sales they're doing a good job with that.
They're doing great. Yes, I agree. I mean, I'll tell you something. I went to the Ravens game in London this past season.
Oh, okay.
And Tottenham Stadium was in the middle of nowhere, basically. I mean, it wasn't in the middle of nowhere, but it wasn't, downtown London. Right.
Yeah.
But it was really cool. It had, first of all, restrooms were abundant, which is something the Ravens claim that they're working on. They had bleachers, basically, inside the concourse. So when you got food pregame or whatever, you could sit on the bleacher and eat with your family or eat your food. They had some tables, high-top tables. But
Very British.
Right. But the bleachers are loaded with people just eating and having drinks before the game, before they go to their seat. So
almost bootgating.
Yeah. I mean, it's the fan experience, and I think that's what they're going to go for here and make it different. And I don't know, have you gone to the...
Well, the fan experience 25 years ago was tailgating.
Right.
Right. They don't want you tailgating. They don't make enough money off of that.
Correct.
They want you in the stadium.
I mean, I've preached for a long time that those bars across the street from the stadium, they should have something every Friday home game or every Sunday home game. I mean, I know what they do. Opening day, those bars are packed and everything else, and a couple times during the season they get good crowds, or maybe more than a couple times now. But why wouldn't you advertise every Friday, come to the tailgate at such and such place, starting at 4 o'clock, $2 beers, whatever it is, because they don't have the lots for the Orioles to accommodate that. It's a little different than the Ravens. People are parking on the north side in parking garages. It's not a lot parking like the Ravens have.
Well, the Orioles are becoming something people are getting more accustomed to going back downtown. And, this goes to Trump, and we're not going downtown, and we hate the city, and all of that. People will come downtown when Garth Brooks is playing CFG Bank Arena. They'll come downtown when Billy Joel's playing or whatever. The Orioles being good and the crowd being 98% white and probably 65%, maybe 75% suburban, meaning people have to drive 10, 12 miles or more to get to the ballpark. Right. I mean, whether you're in White Marsh, Catonsville, Owings Mills, wherever you are making a 20 to 30-minute drive to the ballpark in a way that it's a decision, and it might not be a decision you make just to go to dinner downtown. So it's your destination to get downtown. These 6:30 games, I don't know what the 6:30 games mean. It's a little weird for me if I had a kid and I lived in Abingdon and was trying to get to the game. I mean, that would be a little awkward for me. But they've done a lot of research on this. Allegedly, Greg Bader's been working hard on this. So 6:30 must be the thing that they're doing now. And there's some perception that, they're dumping 28,000 people downtown at 9:08 at night. Maybe some of them will go do something. I don't know. Maybe they will.
Maybe.
But the city has to offer that too. And that goes to public safety and all those other things.
Correct.
But people coming back downtown, this is really happening. They
for
really
sure.
are coming. I'm seeing it. Kids' days, mustard, relish, ketchup, whatever. That's a good thing for the city, and that's a good thing for Rubenstein. But to your point, the vibrancy of everything else around it, it can't be I go and park my car in the lot, walk in, walk out, and go home, and never – I went to 8 Orioles games this year, but I didn't go to the city. I just went to the parking lot.
Correct.
That's for the city to figure out, but that's going to be the special sauce that you and I would go to Hooters or Baja Beach Club, or people go to Morton's before the game, or go to Phillips before the game, or you can't get dinner before the game when the game's at 6:30.
No,
so that's a non-starter for local business. It really is.
I'm fortunate enough to have my own business, so I go down. If I'm going to a 6:30 game, I'm down there at 4:30. I get parked. I think the stadium lots open at 4:30, so with my plan, you get this.
So you
kind
make
of
an
parking.
event out of it.
I make an event of it.
Okay.
Get down there. I go have a bite. I go have a drink, whatever it might be. Then I go in the stadium. But typically, I'm going right home afterwards.
But you're in your seat at 6:15 before first pitch. You even get to hear the whistling national anthem, and then like people start showing up.
Right.
Like people don't get to their seats until 6:55. Right? I mean, like this early start, I see people filling into the bowl. You're an anomaly to some degree because some people can't just get there at 4:30.
Of course. Last game I went to, one of my friends came who works in D.C., and it took him, I think he left D.C. at like 3:30, and he didn't get, obviously, down here till almost 6 o'clock. I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah, and it's like you and I thinking about seeing Sammy Hagar down at that dump in Manassas.
Right.
Anytime that thing's in Manassas, you know, it could be Eddie Vedder, Flea, Dave Grohl, Manassas.
I'm going 2 weeks from today to Jiffy Lube, and I told
What day of the week is it?
a Thursday.
Problem.
No,
Problem.
I told Julie we're leaving
We're
at
leaving
2
1 o'clock.
I said
Yeah.
we're leaving at 2 o'clock.
2.
I said as soon as you
1.
get home from work, we're
1.
leaving. Right. Well, we can't leave at 1, but
2 puts you on the DC Beltway. 3, you're screwed.
right. Well,
You can leave at 2, you're going to get there at 6. You leave at 1, you'll get there at 2:30.
I know. But, I mean, listen, we're going to get out the door as soon as she gets home. We're going to get down there, and she's like, well, what are we going to do? I said, we're going to find a restaurant. We're going to eat close to the Jiffy Lube Live and then make our way over there.
I love having you on the show because you're like one of my oldest friends. Howard Scher's here. He owns Duct Doctors. He's been my friend for 40 years. He's Humpin' Howie. He's my DJ partner in the 80s. You were our first Oriole ballpark reporter, you and Tom Kapp.
I was.
Yep, 1992, 3, 4 in there.
It was, yeah.
Right there.
Right around there. Right around 92, 93, yep.
What would you tell people about your experience talking to ball players? I mean, you became friends with Mike Messina and his brother, and I mean, like, there were good times. It was a different
Great
time.
times. It was totally a different time. There were very
Ben McDonald. Was there a better guy than Ben McDonald?
Absolutely not.
I love that he does the games.
Yeah, me too. Ben's great. I remember the late Johnny Oates sitting down next to me one day in the dugout and like just asking me how he could help me. Like there were some really good people
That's
there.
beautiful.
Like,
Johnny was a beautiful guy.
yeah, there were some quality people. There were very few people that came through there that were what people stereotypically think of professional athletes today. Now, I do think that this Oriole team today is probably a little bit
Did you have a
different.
player or two big league you to this day when you see their baseball card, you're like Reggie Jackson was a jerk to me? Like when I think of old Orioles, I had a run-in with Rafael Palmeiro that he later apologized to me for, so that's good. B.J. Suroff was always like B.J., but I saw B.J. 3 weeks ago, and we're fine. He just was a gamer. He just was like
He
not
was focused
really,
on the game.
Yeah, he wasn't really didn't like dealing with a clown with long hair, and I get that, and I'm good with
Right.
B.J. But I'm trying to think of all the baseball players back in Albert Bell, obviously.
Yes.
I remember going up to Manny Ramirez and asking him if he would come on the show, and he said to me, "I don't speak English."
That's funny.
That's a jerk.
Right.
Yeah, he was a famous jerk.
Right.
But so when I think about baseball players in that era, I don't have. When I think of Kirby Puckett and I think of Paul Mollett, I just go through all the visiting players. Barry Bonds wasn't even a jerk to me. Ken Griffey was phenomenal. Like, I just think of everybody. George Brett. Jeff Montgomery still comes on 30 years later. Like, I think of the baseball people I met, and I thought, you know, I all these years later, I don't have that guy was a jerk. Maybe Albert Bell, but he's probably medicated. I mean, to some degree, couldn't help himself.
So there was one player, and you already mentioned, who was kind of a jerk to me, and it was more outside the locker room than it was, or outside the clubhouse than it was in the clubhouse. And he would come out sometimes with the Messinas and I after the game, him amongst other players, and I just don't think he trusted me. I wasn't in the inner circle. I was sort of a friend from the outside.
Okay, so you got a different conversation.
Right. So,
well,
I sort of could get that. He doesn't know me. So why should he trust me? Why should he be friendly to me and open up and talk?
Well, the journalism part was trying to create relationships with folks, so there was some trust.
Of course.
And I can't say this enough from a guy who's been banned, and you scoff at that because you've known me 40. You met me with a notebook in my hand
right.
as a reporter. The interesting part is back then the whole idea was to sell tickets and to put the good face forward. Now the whole idea is to lock the players up and never have them ever get asked any questions by anybody.
That aren't.
There is a complete, total mistrust for all of it.
Right.
In a way that there's so much money that it doesn't matter. Where you and I go back to, we were still fighting to get the Ravens.
Right.
We didn't have a football team here. The baseball team was still trying to sell tickets because they thought of themselves as the Orioles, the little engine that could.
Yeah.
The local team that had to be local, that operated differently, and the Oriole way and all of that. My God, Angelos murdered that over 30 years, And then there's the sport unto itself where it takes care of itself. I mean, Angelos did everything possible to destroy the franchise in every measurable way, in every single measurable way, except that he died and his kids are getting $1.8 billion from something they spent $29 million in cash on and wrecked it. That's how Bob Loeffler once said to me, you can't fight with the Orioles. Their brand's too big. It's too long. It's here forever. It'll always be here. One way of looking at it. Horse racing thought that too. So did boxing, right? But so did the Bay City Rollers, right? But
Yeah.
the notion that this is going to take care of itself and just go on forever, maybe it will at 55. You know what I mean? Maybe it's too big to fail.
Maybe.
To that degree,
Maybe. I mean, you had 5 players this week, or 4 players get suspended for gambling. Baseball players. So
I'm shocked.
There's things right. I mean, there's things that could destroy.
And
the
nobody's
brand.
using any steroids anymore, of course, right?
Of course not.
Of course not. Howard Scher is here. All right, so documentary. We're 45 minutes into this. I haven't asked you about it. I made you watch it. I made all my friends watch it. I would encourage everyone to watch it, courtesy of our friends at Curio Wellness and Foreign Daughter. Their products also make the documentary better. You got any feedback on it at all?
I mean, I just want to know. I'm one of your oldest friends. I've been to all the events over the years.
You're not in
all
it?
the events.
Did you not
most
make
events.
it?
I did not make it.
How many pictures do we have together? Not many.
That's probably it. I guess people weren't taking pictures of us. But I was like, what kind of...
Hold on. I'm trying to think if I have any picture of you and I anywhere where you're doing the show next to me, or you've not been on my road trips, you haven't done the show next to me. You are in a picture, but it wasn't appropriate to the movie. I have pictures of you at the Lord Baltimore Hotel. Stan Charles is in those pictures. Drew Forrester's in those pictures. Vince Fiducia's in those pictures. Mark Messina. We had a party for maybe my first or second anniversary on radio.
Okay.
Like literally, it was very, very early on. I'm wearing an Oiler jersey. Susan Monday was producing the show. Linda Workinger. Erica was there as well. So there's pictures in the studio, but they're nothing I would put in.
Right, I know.
Like,
fine.
so I'm
just
trying
to give you a little crap about it.
Dude, I went through 6 months worth of
Right.
pictures, and I have pictures of you and I in Cancun. You want to tell people about how great that trip was?
For me, I had fun. We won't get into that.
That's next week's show. You and me going to Cancun together. I don't have any. Well, this speaks to if my father, if he were alive today, he would say, "You know any pictures of you and me at Memorial Stadium?" I'll say, "Dad, you didn't bring a camera." I don't have a picture of my father and I any more than I have a picture of you, me, and Arnie, and Joe,
Right.
and Desiree at Skipjack's games because I didn't bring a camera to Section 212 every week.
Right. And listen, there were times that I would come to your events and I would say, what do you need? And you'd say, hey, can you do this? Can you do that? So I would miss photo opportunities because I was doing stuff behind the scenes or whatever it may be,
took
but it was
some of
fine.
the pictures that were in it.
Yeah. Yeah. I might have done that. But it was just
See,
funny watching it.
Frankovic's in it because he was sitting next to Trotz and me when we were doing shows together. Yeah. You're not in it because I don't have any pictures with you,
Okay,
dude.
well, now you have live video for documentary part 2.
I'm trying to think of anywhere you didn't go to the Super Bowl with me either time. You were not in New England. You weren't. Like, I'm trying to think, like, we're ubiquitous friends, but we're not the kind of friends, let's take a selfie together,
Right.
you know, like, so I don't have any pictures of you.
Okay, well.
What do you want me to do? I feel
Nothing.
guilty.
It's fine. Do not feel guilty.
So I give
did
you
not tell
36 minutes of a documentary, and all you point
That's
out
all I
you're
took
not in
away.
it.
No, there was plenty I took away. It was very well done. It brought back a lot of
It's
memories
'cause Greg
for me.
Landry's a professional.
I thought that the memories of the New Kids on the Block story.
That was the last thing that was made into the film. It was so last, I only had one edit in all. The thing that Landry said on the show from Blue Rock Productions and Tassin Transfers, he's like, I have never, ever worked with a more insane MFer than me in putting it all together. He's like, but the fact that you wrote the script one time, I gave Greg the script, and I said, look, dude, you're going to edit it, and I'm not going to touch it because you're the executive producer. So whatever the script is, I'm not even going to look at it. I'm just going to send it to Mickey and Gina and John and Mike. And he put a few edits in, and I'm pissed that he edited something out about it that he didn't like it because he thinks corporately and I don't. The fact that I was a 0-rated radio station was brought up with Joe Heffron from 100.7 here a little while ago. Like, the Arbitron called me a 0, which is the whole reason I called the film No One Listens.
Yes.
Because I was told for 20 years.
I remember.
You know how many times Jerry Coleman has told me I have no listeners when the truth is he has no sense? You know what I mean?
Right.
So no one listens. So he edited that part out. So he gave me the script. I sent it out to everybody. They all really labored on it. Like, I thought it was going to be easy. John Allen said it took him 6 hours to do the script. Like, literally, they all really took it seriously.
That's nice.
Mickey, everybody, Mike Brillhart, Gina, Shock, everybody took it seriously. And so it came back, and they all did it. And at the end, looking through every picture, looking really hard for pictures of you, Howard. I couldn't find any.
Thanks.
At the end, all I thought, Greg loved the music part. Like, he's like, I love the music part. Nobody knows this about you.
Correct.
Like, this is awesome. This is gold, right? This is special sauce. And I thought the New Kids on the Block thing kept hitting me. And I thought, and my wife's like, dude, you got to put that in as special. Like, they picketed the building, and there's a whole sheet. And I'm like, well, how do I make that 3 seconds long with any impact? And I wrote to Brillhart like 3 days before the video was done. And I'm like, Mike, I just want you to put one line together. And he put that one line in. And then there was the New Kids on the Block.
It wasn't enough.
And it was just one line, and it was the last thing I put in the whole thing. So
I just wish there was more about the New Kids on the Block because that was a great time. I mean, I remember you walking into the arena to, like, hockey games and wondering who was new, who recognized you, like what was going to happen.
Scream at me about the New Kids on the Block.
The New Kids on the Block.
It was traumatic.
It was a big deal.
All I could think about is all those girls' names. They signed their names to all the hate letters that I got. I'm thinking they're all like 48, 50 years old now, and I'm thinking they're alive. And well, I put it up on Facebook, and I'm like, if anybody knows these girls, tell them I want to buy them a beer. I mean, like, at the very least, these girls that came down and picketed me in 1991 when I was 22 years old.
Simply because you spoke what you felt to be true.
Yeah, the show wasn't very good.
Right.
You know, I mean.
So one of the other parts I liked is a music part of the documentary. And it's just stupid, but it's just funny. Like when John Denver called you Nestor, he left you a voicemail.
Hello, Nestor.
Right? I just thought it was great.
The piece we didn't put in, and I think Greg didn't think it would have made sense, was we were doing all the rock stars calling in. Hey, this is John Bon Jovi. This is whoever. Yeah. The call that came with David Bowie, because I would always hit the record button before, when the phone would ring, I'd hit the record button. So when I pick it up, you would hear me say hello, right? So I picked it up, and I say, hello. Hello, I have a collect call from Mr. David Bowie. Will you accept? And I'm like, yes, please. And hello, is this Nestor Love? You know, like, so.
Right.
David Bowie actually, but he didn't introduce himself and say, hi, this is David Bowie.
Yes.
So he didn't do that.
But it's hilarious. You got a collect call from David Bowie.
I got a collect call from David Bowie, yeah.
Right.
So
most people get them from a jail cell or something like that.
Have I interviewed anybody on the walls in here? David Bowie's on the wall. Yes, I've interviewed him. Freddie Mercury's on the wall. Joan Jett's on the wall. So I've interviewed Joan Jett, David Bowie. I have not interviewed. I did interview Flea. Flea got on the phone when I interviewed Anthony Kiedis. Took the phone from him and yelled some stuff at me because they were talking about John Waters.
Okay.
The whole conversation I had with Anthony Kiedis and Flea in 1989, they were playing Painter's Mill.
Okay.
Was about John Waters. So there.
You never interviewed Stevie Wonder?
I met Stevie Wonder at the Baltimore Civic Center with Edie Brown on the In Square Circle tour. He was doing the round tour at the arena. I met Stevie. I shook his hand.
Remember when he played the Ravens lot before the stadium
That
opened?
was unbelievable.
I mean, there was nobody there, right? Wasn't there like 100?
Nobody knew what was going on, and it was underneath of the stadium. There were 5,000 people there, but it was
that many?
Yeah,
okay.
But it was. I mean, I remember playing Higher Ground and me freaking out, thinking it's awesome. I saw Stevie at MGM 3 years ago, Plaguish. He was doing a jukebox tour. I had a front row seat. It was unbelievable. I saw him. He didn't see me. That's my joke. But I love Steve.
That's
I
funny.
love Steve. Yeah.
You should watch. Have you watched the USA for Africa Netflix special?
No, but I'm saving that one.
You need to watch.
I'm saving Bon Jovi too. Is that going to be good? The Bon Jovi documentary looks.
I haven't
looks
watched
good.
it, but the USA for Africa is cool.
Well, there's
Because
pictures of Bruce Springsteen and Billy Joel and Michael Jackson sitting around bored.
Right. I mean,
Yeah.
it was so long ago. I didn't remember the story until I watched it recently, and it was like a 18-hour experience. I mean, not literally, but they left the Grammys that night. I think they were.
And they worked all night.
And they worked all night until the morning. So these people, well, I say 18 hours, they had been up since the morning like a normal day and were pretty much awake 24 hours.
They were broken.
Some of them were drinking. Some of them were broken.
Just broken. I mean,
Yes.
I'm broken at 3 in the morning. I don't need to be drinking.
Right. You need to watch it because you've talked to a lot of these people in your life.
Oh, and I love all those artists.
Right.
Equally.
It's cool. And now I hear the song on the radio. For some reason, it's been getting played on the radio lately, and I hear it.
We are the world.
Right, I hear it, and I'm like, oh, yeah, I remember how they shot that, and why did Huey Lewis jump in there, and stuff like that. So you should watch it.
You know what? We started watching it. My wife and I watched the first 5 or 10 minutes, and we thought it was going to be so good that we needed to, have a couple hours for it. So I'm going to watch it.
Yeah.
I want to watch the Bon Jovi doc. I'm trying to think if I've seen any good rock docs lately, man. I mean, you've seen all the class, the Petties and the Eagles and all that. They're all great.
Yeah.
Rock docs are – the Triumph rock doc was phenomenal. I had Rick Emmett on the show a couple months ago.
didn't know. Okay.
The Triumph rock doc was really good, so check that out. Howard Scher's here. He checked out my doc. We're going to go check out the Orioles and the Blue Jays. We're at State Fair. We're giving away Pac-Man scratch-offs. I had some winners, $20 winners at Cooper's the other day. We're going to be at Coco's on Wednesday next week. Sig's going to be there. Max Weiss is going to be there. Friday, we're going to be at Cooper's Fells Point for Fleet Week. They'll be flying over top. It'll be a lot of fun down there. 20th, we're at Costas in Dundalk, and the 25th, we are at Pappas in Parkville. Am I saying that right? 25th. I keep giving. I'm giving wrong dates. I'm all confused here in the month of June.
The 20th is a Thursday.
It is the 25th. It is a Tuesday. So there. Okay. Good. You get a Pac-Man scratch. I already gave you a Pac-Man scratch off.
Good.
You bent
do
it all
do I
up.
get a Thomas Dolby book?
I only have one, but we can share it.
No, that's
tell me about Duct Doctor and what you do, because you've been my lifer friend, and you suck ducks for a living.
So we do air duct cleaning, dryer vent cleaning throughout the Mid-Atlantic.
Helps you breathe better? Tell folks.
Helps us breathe better. It's all about indoor air quality, potentially helping to reduce your utility bills.
Especially if you have wood in your vents.
Correct. There's a lot of people out there that claim they do a good job and do what we do. All you have to do is pull up on YouTube some stories about on Dateline, Inside Edition. We have a truck-mounted system. It's all right in front of your face. We send before and after pictures.
I was blown away when you came. You brought a truck up to my front door.
It's a very elaborate process. So, can I tell you about who we've partnered with lately?
Let's do it.
Okay, so we partnered with a company called AeroSeal. And what AeroSeal does, they were formed back in 1997.
AeroSeal. I'm trying to think of what seal. Okay, go ahead. I'm trying to think of what it does. Go ahead.
Right. So
Seals airplanes. No, I'm sorry.
Yes.
I'm trying.
So they developed this product in conjunction.
I'm sorry. You're worried about your hair, and
I'm not worried about my hair. They just keep sliding off my ears.
Put it up over your head.
Okay.
There you.
And then lift that up. All right.
It's called a headset. You put it on your head.
All right. Sorry.
God, I have nicer hair than. Well, not really. Not right now. You have really nice hair.
So thank you. So it was developed in conjunction with the Department of Energy. And it was done at the Lawrence Berkeley Labs in Berkeley, California, which is a government-funded research lab. And the basic concept behind it is that all metal ductwork has gaps in it. So there is a ton of air escaping every time you turn on your HVAC
because
system.
They were made in pieces and they're
put
hinged,
together.
but
Correct.
not welded.
Right. So air.
In most homes, you're saying.
Correct.
Okay.
So what we do is they come in and they pressurize the system, and air always looks for low pressure. So they're able, with their computer program, to get a reading to see where the gaps are in the ductwork. So then they put in this organic compound, which seals those gaps. And it's amazing the amount of money that people can save, the things it does to the environment. Every seal is equal to planting 50 trees. And, I mean, I'm not a tree hugger, but that's pretty impressive that every seal is equal to planting 50 trees because of the loss it reduces in a house. So I had my house done a couple weeks ago.
Uh-oh.
So
this is research. Hold on.
Here are the numbers. Here are the numbers.
Right.
So 1 CFM, cubic foot per minute of air, is equal to like basically the size of a basketball, fully blown basketball.
Okay.
My house was seeping 382 CFMs a minute.
A minute?
A minute, 382. 382 basketballs were going out of my house.
It's like 382 slow leaks in your tire, but it's in your venting, and this is when your air conditioning's pushing in. It's just kind of like going into the walls. And
Correct.
heat.
Correct.
And heat. Okay.
Yes. After the ceiling, I'm down to 11. So I went from 382 to 11.
So they shoot this stuff into the cracks. I'm trying to picture this inside the walls, and that holds it in, and all of a sudden your air conditioning doesn't have to work nearly
as hard.
That's pretty obvious, right? Like, you know, that
I will tell you, and maybe I'm imagining it, but I feel like my air conditioning is colder right now because I'm getting more air. And we discovered things in my house that have nothing to do with AeroSeal. When they started working, my house is 30-some years old. I haven't lived there the whole time. They found that a plumber came in while my house was being built, disconnected one of the vents
so
to run a pipe
you had
through.
A hole. Yeah.
I had air just flowing into my basement utility room. So we closed it up. I mean, so there's a lot of things that go into this process. And the way we found that out, we were unable to establish high pressure. So we use a fog machine. We pump fog in, and we see where the fog goes. And when you see fog coming out, then you know you've got a problem.
This is like when you take that dye when you have to get the special work done in your body, right?
Correct. It's all non-toxic, EPA approved, organic, as I said.
AeroSeal Duct. AeroSeal. AeroSeal
That's
Duct.
correct.
All right, good enough.
So 95% of residential homes have leakage. And
See, this doesn't even cut into your core business because the ducts are still going to get dirty, right? I mean, the ducts get dirty. You're doing people a favor here and saying not only are your ducts dirty, there's holes all through it, and you're losing very, very, very expensive to air conditioning, especially bigger spaces, corporate buildings, industrial buildings. There's a lot of loss.
Tons, right?
Yeah.
So we come in, we clean. We recommend that before we have AeroSeal come do their part of it, that it's been your ducts have been cleaned within the last like 2 years, maybe 3 years, because it's important that they're clean. And then we go ahead and do it. It comes with a 10-year guarantee. There is a direct bottom line federal government rebate of up to 30% of the cost. So if you're writing a check in April for $1,000, you know, you could potentially take that down to a couple hundred by doing this program. So it sort of pays for itself.
Nice. All right, well, tell everybody how to find these folks and you, and what's the best way to get the Duct Doctor locally here in Baltimore? Because you're a national or international brand, Duct Doctor?
They are national, but there is one in UAE.
Well, I figured maybe one in Canada or whatever, but
right, there is not. There's just
like
one
brand,
overseas.
though.
It is a big brand. The best way to get a hold of Duct Doctor is 800-955-1275, info@ductdoctordmv.com. Or you can call me on my cell phone, especially if you're interested in the AeroSeal stuff. That's 443-641-3519.
Or you can get to me. I can get you to Howard. Howard's been one of my lifer pals. We met at a hockey game 40 years ago at the then it was the Baltimore Civic Center, then the
Civic
Arena,
Center.
then the Royal Farms and First Mariner, now the CFG Bank Arena. Have you been to the new arena?
Yeah, I've been to a bunch of concerts.
And?
I like it.
It's amazing, isn't it?
It is.
I mean, I think in our heart of hearts, we always thought it's going to get torn down at some point and kind of be gone, and they'll do something else. All the Termonium arenas and all the ideas we've had here all these years, to think that it could be fixed up, dressed up, sexied up, and useful for the next 20 years. I am 55. I am really good if for the next 20 years they're going to bring Janet Jackson, Pearl Jam, if they're going to bring those bands to that arena, that's the greatest thing they could have done with that arena, because we weren't getting a football or basketball team, we weren't getting hockey, there's no indoor lacrosse, like all that sports stuff that arena was thought about in the 60s and 70s and 80s, that's over with. It's a big theater. You know, I went out to see Pearl Jam at the LA Forum.
Okay.
Had you ever been to the LA Forum?
I did not.
But you've seen a million Showtime and the Lakers and all that. It is the exact same concept as this building, where when you walk into it, you would never know the Lakers played there. You would never know the Kings played there. Everything's been painted black. Everything's black curtained, and it looks like a giant round theater. And the outside of it's beautiful because it's the Forum. You know, it's got that.
Right.
It's got those Forum columns, right? But I went there for Lakers games. I went there for Kings games. You know what they did? And this is where they really screwed it up. And I don't know. They spent a lot of money fixing this place. They took the troughs out.
At the Forum.
Yeah, the Forum had legitimate, old-school women. You don't know about this, but men know. Troughs. I mean, they had, like, legitimate troughs. You know where they still have troughs? And I urinated there recently? The Carrier Dome in Syracuse. Troughs. Troughs.
Did MetLife have troughs? I feel like it was somewhere in the last couple years that had troughs.
And I peed at MetLife the other day. No, they didn't have troughs
They didn't.
there. No. They got troughs at Hershey Park Stadium because it was built in 1918. You know what I mean?
Baby.
So the Forum in L.A., they have made it – this is the new thing. They take these old hockey rinks.
Right.
And it doesn't look like a hockey rink anymore, right? Did you see what they do in Toronto to the Sky Dome?
Yes.
They've, like, done all sorts of that and barely recognize it. So maybe Camden Yards, we'll see. They'll, $600 million ought to buy us something, right?
New scoreboard, new sound system to start.
Is that what your beef is?
I mean, I think the restroom situation could be better there, too. I love the center field bar. Not where I take the kids, but it's a great spot. Go watch the game. If you're done sitting in your seat, walk out there for an inning or two.
I often think if they made me in charge. First off, they made me in charge of Camden Yards, said fix it. I'd call Janet Marie and it'd be done.
Right.
Because I know a girl.
Right.
I got a guy.
She did a pretty good job.
I got a person for that.
Yeah.
Let Janet Marie figure out whatever she thinks. It's a good idea.
Right.
That's where I am on it. But I don't know what. I just want a good baseball team that treats the community right, that treats me right, that speaks to everyone, not just the Venezuelan and the media, poorly. And they've had a history of treating people poorly. I have been treated poorly by the new people. I hope that changes.
Yeah.
For me,
one can only hope. For everybody.
For everybody.
Right.
I mean, and I always say that to them, to these new people that have been mean to me, like, I want the same things you want. I'm not cutting my hair for you. I'm not kissing your ass for a press pass. I'm not going to lie for you. I'm certainly not going to do that. And I'm also not going to go down there and be treated like garbage because I won't allow that.
And the new people should get to know you before jumping to a conclusion.
One would think. Howard Scher is here. He has a Pac-Man scratch-off from the Maryland Lottery. Our friends at Liberty Pure Solutions. Doug Workman keeping our water clean, as well as our friends at Jiffy Lube Multi-Care for sending us out on the road. We got a ball game in progress here. We're at State Fair in Catonsville. I'm giving these things away. We're going to be doing it all week long. Talking sports, talking music, talking fun. Fleet Week is next week. I had Patrick Russell, all the Fleet Week folks on. I had Thomas Dolby on today talking about his tour, Totally Tubular. They're going to be down at the Anthem. So that show there, do you know about Totally Tubular? Let me plug that. I had it up on my so here are the bands. And this is like totally right up your alley, dude. So the bands are Thomas Dolby, Thompson Twins, Modern English, Men Without Hats, The Romantics, Bow Wow Wow, Tommy Two-Tone, and the Plimsolls.
So most of those bands are British. Tommy Two-Tone is not. He's like a upper Midwest guy.
Romantics weren't are American too.
Oh, are they? I thought they were.
What I like about you. I think they're. You're going to make me Google things and make me not wrong, but I'm going to look the Romantics up and we're going to find out. I hear they're from Detroit, American rock band. I thought they were from Milwaukee, but that was Milwaukee was good girls don't, but I do. My Sharona, the Knack. He's dead. Doug Feigler, I believe his name was. But no, the Romantics, 1977.
And I think Tommy Two-Tone's from Minnesota, baby?
Yeah,
Michigan, somewhere up there.
So you plugged that all wrong. Two-Tone, Tommy Two-Tone, pop band. Tommy Two-Tone. Tommy Two-Tone's a pop band. It's not a person. Tommy Two-Tone were two people.
Right.
How about that? California origin.
Okay.
By the way, I was
for
told
some reason I thought he was a school teacher up in the upper Midwest, but
I was told that was George Steele, the animal. Well, it was.
I know.
So
I did not confuse Tommy Two-Tone and George the Animal Steele, but yes, one had a green tongue, one did not.
I don't know what I was going to say. I'm going to go now.
Sorry.
Let's go watch the game.
Let's go.
State Fair. I'm getting a salmon. What are you getting?
I don't know. Take a look.
Salmon's good. All right, Howard Scher, my buddy, called Duct Doctor. Find us next week at Coco's on Wednesday. Find us on Friday downtown at Cooper's. Come on down for Fleet Week. It's going to be a good time. Bring the family down there. Come on back to the city. I am Nestor. We are WNST, AM 1570, Towson, Baltimore. We never stop talking Baltimore. Positive, even when our segments are too long.